sense that we'd have a mistake with the Zoom links on Friday the 13th. I hope that's the worst thing that happens to us today. So we'll get started today in any comfortable position. If you're seated on the floor, that's fine. Just make yourself comfortable. If you're in a chair as I am, you're welcome to lean against the back of the chair to get started. So let's take a moment just to orient ourselves to this space, as we so often do. If it's helpful for you to look around the room, you can do that. If you're at home, I'm guessing it's a room that you're quite comfortable with, a room that you spend a lot of time in. So as you're looking around, I want you to imagine now that you're looking around with fresh eyes as though you've never seen this room before. So brand new room. And let your eyes just take in whatever sights come to you. So the color of the wall, or if there's a window, the view of whatever is outside the window, and see if you can notice what effect that has. Take another moment to feel the support of your chair or the floor under your hips, and to notice the temperature of the air around you. If you're just joining us, that's perfect. We're just getting started together. Taking a moment to ground and center and settle into our bodies a little bit. And now I'm going to ask you to see if you can notice anything at all about how your body's feeling today. It's okay if you don't have a really good answer for this. But for now, I just want you to check in and see what's going on with my body today. Do I feel connected to my body today? Notice if there are any aches or pains. And as you look through the experience of your body, you might start to find, oh, it would be more comfortable for me to move around a little bit, so you can make any little adjustments you need to. We're going to begin the physical part of our practice by waking up our bodies a little bit. And we've done this before, but it's been a little while. So this is called the quadrant wake up. We're going to wake up the 4 quadrants of our body. So it works like this. We'll start with your right arm. Take your left hand and start to tap or pat or touch your right arm. And it doesn't matter how you're touching the arm. It might be a little bit of a pat like I'm showing here, or you might do sort of a stroke, or it could be a squeeze. You can ask yourself, how do I want to do that? What feels good? What we're going to do as best you can is try to cover every inch of that hand, arm, and shoulder so that we are touching all of the surface area and waking up our sense receptors there. You might even do the fingers. I'm going to sort of pull on each of the fingers a little bit here. And again, it's up to you what kind of touch you want to do. You could do a little tap with the fingers or a little flutter touch like this. And then when you feel like you've done as much of the arm as you want to, we'll pause and close your eyes if that's helpful. And I'd like you to see if you can notice, does this arm, your right arm that you just woke up, does it feel a little bit different? Can you notice any more sensation? Does it feel bigger? We're waking up the map of our body in our mind. So we're trying to bring our sense receptors to life in this right arm. When you're ready, now we'll move to the left arm. So in the left arm, you can do the same sort of touch, or it might be different. You might feel like you want to do something different here. That's up to you. Of course, if there's any part of the body that doesn't want to be touched, whether it's painful or if it's just not something that you want to touch, that's fine. Just don't touch it. See if you can get all of the parts that do feel okay, though. Asking this arm to wake up, whether you're patting, touching, tapping, squeezing, stroking, however you want to touch is fine. See if you can get the fingers, the palm of the hand, the back of the hand. And if you like, you can look at your arm and your hand with your eyes and take in that visual experience so that you see and feel your own arm. And then when you feel like you've gotten that whole arm as best you can, we'll pause again and notice. Maybe the eyes closed. Just see if you can notice, do my 2 arms now feel more alive, more awake, more aware? Is there any sensation that I'm waking up to in both of the hands, both of the arms, both of the shoulders? Anything that you notice is okay. When you're ready, now we're moving on to a leg. Now, depending on your mobility today, depending on your position, you may not be able to get the whole leg. That's fine. We're just getting as much of the leg as we can. If it's okay for you to stand up, you're welcome to stand up and pat your way or tap your way or squeeze your way down the leg, maybe even the foot if you can reach it. Trying to get the toes if you can touch them. Asking this leg to wake up. The legs have some bigger muscles, so it might feel okay to give them a little bit of a bigger touch, a more vigorous touch, almost like a little slap. That feels okay. Maybe the back of the hip if you want to touch your bum. And if you'd rather not, that's fine too. Remembering that we only touch the parts we want to touch. And then when you feel complete, we'll pause again and see if you can notice, does this leg feel different from the other leg? Do we have a little more sense awareness? Does it feel bigger, more alert? And then as you feel ready, let's move on to that last leg. So this is the fourth quadrant, the fourth, if you will, of our body, the last part. There is one more little thing to do after this, but this is the fourth limb that we wake up. Going up and down the leg, maybe the back of the leg if you can reach it, maybe the back of the hip. If the foot is available to you to reach, you can do that too. Maybe the toes even, some parts of your body that maybe you don't touch as much. See if you can wake them up too. And then when you feel like you've covered as much of that leg as you are able to and want to, we'll pause again. So now in your mind's awareness, can you feel that you've got arms and legs awake and aware, body coming to life? And for the final part of our wake up, we go back to any parts that we want to, or any parts that we haven't touched yet. So if it feels okay to do the stomach, you can do the stomach. You can do the lower back, you can do the shoulders, you can do the neck, the head, the face. So I'm going to start with the back of my head and just give it a little tap. You could do a little like shampoo kind of scrub around the scalp if that feels nice. You don't want to mess up your hair, that's understandable. But if you're not on camera, feel free to do whatever you want there. Maybe the ears, maybe the cheeks, maybe around the eyes. Any touch that feels good here. When we bring our fingers, when we bring our awareness to these parts, we're asking our body to become more vivid, more vibrant, more awake in the map of our minds. Across the chest, maybe tapping a little bit if that feels good. And then in the lower back, sometimes I like to do alternating hands, lightly tapping like this against the back, maybe the top of the hips. And then finally, when you feel like that's enough of that, let's pause and just take in the feeling of the whole body. And I'm going to ask you now one more time to see if you can notice, what's it like to be in your body right now? So we've had a little time to work with it, and we'll do more physical work, of course. So just see if you can notice a little bit more about your body, any other information it's providing to you. Maybe you feel like you're breathing a little bit differently now. Maybe something else has changed. So take a moment just to be aware and just to notice. And now we'll start to bring a little more movement into our practice. Let's do some neck circles. You've done these with me before, if you've been with me before. So remember, we only move in a pain-free range of motion. You only go as far as feels good for you. We'll start by dropping your chin toward the chest, just as though you were looking down to see if you dropped any food on it. And then we take the chin over to your right collarbones, right ear toward the right shoulder, and then chin toward the sky just as much as is comfortable. And we're drawing a half circle across the ceiling until your left ear comes towards your left shoulder. And then we bring the chin down to the left collarbones and across to complete the circle. Let's do one more in the same direction. See if you can notice whether your shoulders are lifting up. I just noticed mine coming up and had to bring them down again. Because we want to make this about the neck, not about the shoulders. Next time you come back to center, we'll just take it in the other direction. Going over to the left collarbones, left ear toward the left shoulder. Easy half circle across the sky. Right ear to right shoulder and back through center. Go ahead and complete one more of these on your own. Just waking up the movements of the neck now, almost like we're knocking a little bit of the rust off, getting into those joints a little bit more. And then we'll come back through to center. Let's take our left arm out to the left and reach through the fingers here. And now we're going to move the left arm through internal and external rotations. So imagine there's a big X right here on your bicep, or maybe you have a tattoo there and you can actually watch it move. As you start to roll the bicep forward, the shoulder rolls forward, the palm is going to come up eventually a little bit too. But really we start the movement from the upper arm. And then we'll turn that bicep over. So if there were an X or a tattoo, you could watch it move. As the bicep comes toward the ceiling, eventually the palm turns up. So let's do a few more of those. Arm turns over, reaching just as far as you can in that range of motion. And then go up and over the other way. We'll do one more time here. See if you can feel how the whole arm moves, but really it starts right here in the shoulder socket. And then we'll turn it right back over. Great work. Set that arm down, out to the other side with the other arm. And now imagine that X on the bicep and we roll it forward and down. It'll watch, maybe the watch face is even pointing forward or down here. And then we roll it back over. So the reason that I say to start with the upper arm is that sometimes it's really easy, keep going through these rotations. Sometimes it's really easy to move from the hand or the wrist or the elbow, but we really want to be able to move the shoulder as comfortably as far as we can. So not moving into pain, but just getting it through whatever range of motion we have available to us. Good, let's bring that hand right back down. If you're sitting on the floor and you need to change the cross of your legs or move to a different position, go ahead. If you're with me in the chair and you've been leaning back, let's move forward a little bit here. Now the hips are going to stay where they are. So we're not moving the hips at all, but we're going to move our ribs. If it's helpful, you can even bring your hands to the ribs here, just resting the fingers. And now we're going to do a side-to-side motion like a typewriter. So ribs go left and ribs go right. It's okay if the movement isn't really big. Just look for whatever movement you can find here and see if you can keep the shoulders a little relaxed. Going left and right. And just noticing where it feels a little sticky or a little bit like it's not moving too much. Now, the next time that it goes over to your right, let's come back through the center. And now we're going to do ribs front and back. So let me turn to the side so you get a little visual of this. My hips don't move and my head isn't moving, but now I'm going to push the ribs forward and pull the ribs back. Ribs push forward, ribs pull back. There you go. So we'll do a few of these, forward and back, and then we'll put it into a circle. Let's start by bringing the ribs forward. Take the ribs to your left, move the ribs back and to the right. Good. Forward, left, back, and right. Going around in this smooth circle. And if you feel awkward, that's okay. I certainly wasn't good at this when I started to find this movement. It's gotten a little better as I've practiced, but it's okay to feel awkward. Let's try going the other way now. Take it to the left, forward, right, and back. Great. Now the hands can go wherever you want them to go, and see if you can just roll that rib cage around. But thinking about initiating it right here from the ribs. Good. And then we'll rest for a moment, shake out the shoulders. Let's take the legs a little bit wide here. I'm going to turn on a slight angle. So before we were moving just from the ribs, and now I'm going to invite you to circle the whole body. So the hips and the legs aren't going to move, but now we'll take the whole upper body in a bigger circle. See if you can notice that the ribs are moving, but now we're letting the belly move. Now we're letting the chest move. So it's just as though we've invited a little more of the rest of the body into the movement. Next time that you come forward, we can pause and circle in the other direction. If it feels good to sort of close your eyes and take your awareness inside to the feeling of the body moving. You're welcome to do that. Sometimes that's helpful. Or if that feels a little bit like you get lost in it, then keep the eyes open. You want to stay present and connected. Next time that you come forward, let's come back through to a more neutral spine position. If you've been seated on the floor and you want to stand up for this next part, you're welcome to. We're going to move into some half sun salutations. Whether you're doing them from a chair or standing, it's really the same movement. It's just that the legs are bent and we're seated here. So you can follow the cues if you're standing. When you're ready, let's take the arms up overhead, just as tall as feels comfortable. And then we're going to bow forward. Now you're going either over the legs or between the legs, depending on whether the legs are together or wide. Either way is good. Slide the fingers up just below the knees and lift the chest. And then fold forward. You can let the spine round as the hands drop back down toward the floor. Now, arms reach out to the sides and back up. A big circle, or as big as your body wants. And then the hands come back through the center. Let's do this one 2 more times. Big circle with the arms. And bowing forward over or between the legs. Feel how the spine rounds there. Let it round. As you bring your fingers to your shins or your knees, the chest lifts. There's a little back bend in the upper back. And then we fold again, sliding the hands back down. All the way back up. Let the spine climb its way up toward the ceiling. And then the hands to the heart. We're going to do just one more like that. Here we go. Arms reach. And bow forward. Lift the chest. Look forward. And fold. All the way back up. Reach through the arms. And hands back through the heart. All right, nice work. Let's do a few warrior poses here. So we'll start with warrior 2, and we'll take the right foot to the right first, and then the left leg is a little bit straight. So if you're in the chair with me, I had to move to the edge of the chair in order for this to work. Of course, if you have arms in your chair, it gets a little different. Remember that we're all going to look different anyway, so that's okay. So the essence of the pose is that the right leg is more bent, the left leg is more straight, and then the arms come out to the sides here. Now, traditionally in our warrior 2, the gaze where your eyes are looking is out over the right arm. So let's see if we can pause for a moment here. Maybe you're looking out over that right arm. And then ask yourself if your left arm is as high as your right. See if you can feel like both arms are the same distance away from the floor. And then if you want to, you can look and check and see if you were right and make any adjustments you want to there. Sometimes we surprise ourselves with where that arm really is. Let's take one more breath in our warrior 2. And then we'll change it a little bit for exalted warrior. Let your left arm drop down. And now I'm going to stretch the right arm up to the ceiling, or maybe it arcs back over the ear a little bit. It really depends on your body. Now, where should you look? It really depends on what your body feels like is good. Some people like to look up here. If that feels like a happy thing for your neck to do, great. If that feels like a strain for the neck, then you can look back and down toward the back leg, toward that left leg here. See if you can feel maybe a little stretch in the right side of the body as we're arcing the spine. And we'll take one more breath here. And then we come back up through warrior 2, floating the arms back out to the sides. And arms come down. Take a moment to reset, walk the legs back toward a more neutral position. If you're standing, you just come to mountain pose, standing on your mat. If you're seated with me, we're in our seated mountain pose on our chair. Next, we're doing warrior 2, same pose on the other side. Walk your left foot over to the left. Make your right leg a little more straight. Remember, it's okay if there's a bend in it. In this chair, I'm able to straighten it, but it wouldn't work for me in every chair. And then again, the essence of the pose here is that my left knee is bent, my right leg is more straight. My chest is squaring off to sort of face between the two legs. And then the arms are out to the sides. And traditionally, our gazing point, it's called drishti in Sanskrit, language of yoga. We're looking over the left hand. So as you stay here and breathe for a moment, again, notice what's going on with your back arm. See if you can feel where it is in space. Like notice it with your mind. Where's my arm? And then take a look and see if you were right. I've done a lot of yoga for many years, so I'm pretty good at knowing where my body is in these poses. But we all have what's called proprioception, and this is the sense in our body that tells us where our body is in space, and it's something that we can train. This is what helps us to be more coordinated, to keep from running into things and to move more gracefully. So we can train it by doing things like saying, where's my arm? And then looking and seeing, is that where I thought my arm was? And making adjustments. Let's find exalted warrior. Drop your right arm down, stretch the left arm up. Maybe it comes back over the ear. However you want to work with the arm is up to you. And then see if you can let your right ear kind of drop toward the right shoulder so that even your left side of the neck is just gently stretching a little bit here. As you stay for a breath or two, see where you want to put your eyes. Where does your gaze want to go? Your drishti. And see if there's anything to notice about how your body feels here. When you feel ready, we'll come back up through the center. Back through warrior two, briefly settling the shoulders, maybe looking out over those left fingertips. And then hands down to the legs. Let's walk the feet back to neutral. And then take a moment just to feel and breathe the work that we've done so far. We're going to come back into warrior two on that first side and do a little movement from there. When you feel ready, right foot to the right, left leg a little bit straight. Now, warrior two here is just a setup point for our triangle pose. Triangle pose is very similar to warrior two, except we've got a straighter right leg. So if I were standing, it would look like this with the legs, and then the hand slides down and the arm comes up. Seated, just because of the chair, it gets a little bit different. So you may need to angle the legs so you feel balanced. The right leg gets a little straighter. And now watch, either the elbow or the arm comes to the leg. It could be hand, it could be elbow, or I could be in the inside. And then this other arm comes straight up. So this is a triangle pose. The idea of triangle pose is that we've got 3 points of contact. So right foot, left foot, and right hand. Now my hand isn't on the floor. I suppose I could try to get it there, but I'm not really worried about that for today. Instead, I'm going to use my leg as a little bit of support. It doesn't matter where on the leg it is. And then the other arm is just reaching tall. Now for today, I'd like to invite you to place your awareness on the space between the arms across the front of the chest and see if you can feel that you're broadening there. You're getting wider across the front of the chest. Without thinking about moving the arms, see if you can think about squeezing the shoulder blades together behind you just a little bit and see if you can feel how broad your collarbones can be. Good. Let's start to bend the knee and come back up. We're settling back into warrior two. Pause for a moment here, just feel and breathe. And then hands drop back down, walk the legs back through the center. Now, before we do the second side, I'm just checking in with my own body, and I can feel that this side of my body was stretching in a way that this side wasn't. It feels a little uneven. So let's get into the second side and find that triangle and see what we find there. See if we can make it a little even. So we start with warrior two, and then we start to straighten that front leg just as much as we can, reasonably. Reach forward a little bit and let that left arm come down. It can either rest on the leg, it could rest elbow or hand, or it could lean against it. And then the right arm is reaching up to the sky. So I'm feeling a stretch here in the side of my body as I do that. If anything is giving you a cue, or if you're getting a message from your body that says, get out of that pose now, get out of that shape now, that's a good sign to change something. But if what you're feeling is a stretch or a little sensation of muscles working, that's usually okay. Of course, it's up to you to decide what's right for you and your body. As you take another breath or two here, let's see if we can find that feeling of getting broad across the front of the chest, getting wide. Maybe squeezing the shoulder blades together behind you ever so slightly. Take one more breath here in this triangle pose. And then a little bend in your knee as you come back through to warrior two. Pause and breathe. Hands come down to rest, walk the legs back in, and then shake out a little bit. Let's move around and see if the body's asking for anything here. Triangle is a little more challenging to sort of figure out in a chair sometimes, just because it's hard to get that leg a little straighter. So whatever you did today was great. Remember, we're not trying to like make ourselves look like cookie cutter versions of each other. We're just trying to find the pose that works best for us, given our circumstances on any given day. Now we're coming into a goddess pose. So for goddess pose, you can do this standing or seated in the chair. The knees are bent. The toes are turned a little bit out to the side, sort of in the same angle as the knees. And then the legs are stepped just as wide as you're comfortable with. So if you were standing, it would be the same thing, but of course your muscles would have to hold you up. So there's a little more effort. Now, let's take the arms out to the sides if that feels okay. And then we'll bring the elbows in right here against the ribs. Make two fists with the hands. Keep the elbows here squeezing against the ribs, and we're going to bring the hands toward one another. And then watch, my elbows stay where they are as the hands come out. Keep the belly lightly engaged, like you were just bracing a little bit. And then come back in with the hands and back out. Now, the reason I said that about the engagement of the abdominal muscles is because what we're working on here is arm rotation, external rotation of the upper arm bones. And what'll happen, keep going, I wanna just show you something. What will happen sometimes in our bodies is when we run out of, like this is as far as we can go with our rotation, then our back does this little back bend, so it feels as though we're going further. So I just want you to pay attention, keep the ribs pulling back, and make sure that what you're working with here is just the arm movement, just the shoulder movement. You may even feel, we're doing one more, you may even feel something happening at the backs of the shoulder blades. That's where those muscles are. Good, let's let the hand rest on the legs, shake out the shoulders, and then straighten the legs if you're standing. If you're in the chair with me, you can move them around a little bit, see if there's any movement that feels good. And then we're coming into a wide-legged forward fold. So if you're in the chair, the legs are just a little bit wide. We're going to fold between the legs. If you're standing, it's the same, but the legs are a little straighter. Let's start by reaching the arms up overhead. And then we'll bow forward, just as we do in our half salutations. Now, bring the elbows to the knees if you're in the chair with me, and pause for a moment here. Maybe let the head hang. And then let's lightly drop one shoulder and then another in, so we get a little twist. If you're in a standing wide leg forward fold, you can bend one knee and then another. That's if you're not in a chair. It might feel good to bend one knee and then another. Now, if you're with me in the chair and you've got the elbows on the knees and you're just twisting gently side to side, you could stay with this. Or depending on your body, it might feel good to let yourself drape a little further forward. Now, today in my body, when I do that, my hands come to the floor. Yours may not, and that's okay too. So if it feels good to let yourself hang, that's fine. If it does not, then I would invite you to come back to the elbows on the knees and just be a little more supported. Sometimes our body prefers a little bit more support here. See what you can notice. If you find that you feel unsupported, then make a little change so that it feels better for you, and you can come up and into a different shape at any time. Signs that you don't feel supported or safe would be it's difficult to breathe, or you feel hot or anxious, or it might just feel like, oh, I don't like this. And that's okay. If that happens for you, that's just a sign that this isn't the right thing for your body right now. And we'll try something different for you instead. Take one more breath in whatever your forward fold is like here. And then wherever you are, let's come all the way back up to stand and or sit, and then roll the shoulders up and back and down. Let's do 2 more shoulder rolls. Up, back and down. Up, back, and down. Okay. One more warrior pose. This is warrior 1. So we're going to go to the right first. Begin to turn your torso to the right. The right toes turn to the right and the right knee is bent. The left leg is a little straighter. Now here's the big difference between warrior 2 and warrior 1. I'm going to turn my torso to look toward my right leg. So I'm not squaring off between the legs anymore. I'm squaring off over the leg. It's not going to be completely square because you're human. You're not made out of Legos, so you can't do squares, but you're moving in that direction. Then the other difference in warrior 1 is that the arms will reach overhead if that feels comfortable for you. Now in warrior 1, feel the feet on the floor if you can connect to that feeling. Feel the support of the earth beneath you, and then see how it feels to lift the chest up. Almost as though you were like vaulting that chest toward the sky, or if there were helium in the chest, it lifts like a balloon. If it feels good in your body to look up between the hands, you're welcome to, but you may find it feels better to look straight forward here. Some people may enjoy leaning back a little bit or finding a little back bend here. And if that causes any strain in your back or it just doesn't feel comfortable, then of course I wouldn't want you to do it. Let's take one more breath here. And then hands drop back down toward the front leg. And we'll turn back through center. Pause and notice anything to notice. I feel that one side of my body again did something the other didn't. And then we'll even it out. Left toes to the left, right leg a little more straight. Turn your ribs, turn your chest to look out over the left leg. And then arms reach overhead. Now, if arms overhead doesn't feel good, sometimes this is a hard thing to sort of face, but if it doesn't feel good, it might not be the right thing to do. Okay? So if there's pain here, I'm going to just show you. You could also take the hands to the heart. This is a beautiful way to do the pose. I have one friend with a shoulder injury, and so she always does it this way, and that works really well for her. Or you could take the hands behind you, whether you're holding the hips or clasping the hands. And so I'm going to do that today on this side, just for something a little bit different. So just know that you have lots of options and that reaching the arms overhead is one way, but it's not the only way, and certainly not the best way to do the pose. It's just one way. Now the chest lifts. Maybe there's a little back bend in the upper back, just a little lean back, and see if you can find some place for your eyes to look that doesn't cause any strain in your neck. We'll take one more breath here and then let that go. Hands back to the front leg and walk yourself back to center. All right, let's do eagle pose. Now, if you're standing, I will share with you that this is one of my least favorite poses of all time. So I much prefer it in a chair. Standing is not my cup of tea, but I'm going to show you what it would look like standing too. So if you know the pose, come on in. But if you're seated with me in the chair, here's where we'll start. We're going to pick the left leg up and cross it over the right, however that looks. I'm stacking my knee on top of my knee, but you could also just cross the ankle. If you can't cross the legs, don't worry about it. Cross the ankles instead, right? So crossing something if you're able. Then we take the arms out to a T. And now your right arm crosses on top of the left and you're holding the shoulders here for a little hug. If you're balancing, here's what that looks like. Back it up so you can see my whole self. I'm going to bend my knees, cross my left ankle over the right. You might have these toes in the air. That's okay. You're balancing on that leg, or you might touch the tippy toes to the floor. Your right arm crosses over the left and you're holding the shoulders, Or if your body allows you to, and this is a lot, but if your body allows you to, you might grab on to the wrist or the hand or whatever you can get. It's up to you how complicated you make this. So I don't like that. It's not a pose I enjoy, but in a chair, I'm on board. So here we go. Legs are crossed. And then the opposite arm is on top and we're breathing. If you've already been in here for a while, you can come out whenever you like, but I'm going to give you another moment in case you were watching the instruction and you needed some time to get in. So the essence of eagle pose, the Sanskrit name is Garudasana, named after Garuda, who was a legendary mythical bird. The essence is that we've got one leg crossed over another, and then the opposite arm crossed on top of the other. So we're crossing the two sides of our body. The spine is lifted, and the weight of our body is in one of our legs. Take one more breath where you are, and then unwind, uncross, and let's take the legs and the arms a little wide and reach. So we're opening up into the front of the body after that really bound up position. And then bring it back in. Let's set up for the second side. Now, if you have bigger thighs, this is sometimes very uncomfortable for folks because their legs get in the way. Rather than just trying to like eke that leg over the other, you might actually pick it up, lift it up, and set it back down so that the thighs have a chance to get on top of each other. But remember, we can also do it with the leg crossed like a figure four. And it's also great if you can't cross the legs at all, just cross the ankle. That's great too. Now with the right leg on top, we're crossing the left arm over the right. So stretch the arms over, wrap around, fingertips grabbing onto whatever they can grab onto. And then see if you can feel the spine lifting tall, as though we're lifting toward the sun. If it's in your body to kind of grab onto the hand or a thumb or whatever, that's fine too. It doesn't really matter. And we're taking a few breaths here. As you breathe, whether you're working with balance on one leg or not, whether you're in the chair or not, see if you can feel what it's like to have tied your body up in this little bit of a knot. Notice whether it feels pleasant or unpleasant. And pleasant is nice. Unpleasant is sometimes okay, right? Not all stretching feels good. But if it's painful, that wouldn't be okay, of course. It's always up to you. You can choose unpleasant or not unpleasant. You don't have to do anything unpleasant. You're a grown-up. Let's take the arms wide, take the legs a little wide too. One more time, big stretch here, maybe even extending the wrists back, and then bring it in and shake out the shoulders, shake out the arms. We're doing one more pose, which you might be standing for, those of you who are standing, but you can also do it in a chair. So this is standing or seated camel pose. So if you're standing, it's the same thing, but you're standing. Let's start by bringing the hands to the hips. If you're in a chair and you're able to scoot forward a little bit, scoot forward a little bit. Think about lifting up a little bit from the belly. So imagine you're wearing suspenders and pull them up here. So there's a little bit of a pulling in and up of this whole abdominal area. Then the hands come to the waist or the hips and the elbows point back as best you can. Pull the shoulder blades together and down. So we're already starting to broaden again across the chest and pull our spine into a little back bend. Now keep your tailbone heavy. Keep a little containment through the abdominal muscles as you start to curl backward here. You might imagine that you're leaning back over a big beach ball or going backward over a high jump. And if it feels best for you to hold on to the chair behind you, or to bring your fingertips somewhere else, you're welcome to do that too. With your chin, you can look in whatever direction you like. Some folks will feel most comfortable with the chin sort of neutral or dropping down. Some people will feel good to bring the neck into the movement too. And you will know very quickly whether or not you want to do that. Let's take one more breath wherever you are. And then back through to center. One more time, little shake, a little stretch, anything your body needs. And then we're coming back to a seat. If you've been standing, come on down. And we're doing just a tiny bit more work before we close together. We're almost at the end of our time together. If you're coming to sit, you might sit cross-legged on the floor, or you might have one leg bent and the other leg straight. And then you can change that when we do the second side. We're coming into a twist. Let's start by circling the arms overhead or just as tall as your body's able to comfortably. And then we're twisting to the right first. So bring the right hand to the floor or the chair behind you. And with the left hand, you can rest on either leg. Now see if you can feel the length of your spine as though it's reaching up. And then let yourself turn around that. So just a gentle rotation. And today I want to invite you just to be curious or interested in how far can I comfortably go here? So there's no strain, but you're just getting a little curious about where could I go a little further? Each of our vertebrae, each of the little parts of our spine has the capacity to turn. Oftentimes our body gets good at moving from only one part of our spine. So what I'm inviting you to be curious about is there part of my spine that isn't twisting as much? And could I just see if there's a little more there that it could twist? We're not pulling or yanking or forcing or fighting. We're inviting and being interested. And sometimes it's surprising how much we may be able to find if we just get a little curious. Let's come back around through the center. Pause, breathe. And we'll move to the second side. When you feel ready, if you're on the floor, you can change your legs. If you're in the chair, you're good to go. Take your left hand behind you now. Right hand can rest on the leg wherever it wants to. Lift up through the crown of the head. So just feeling really tall in the spine and long in the back of the neck. And then as you rotate around, rather than using your hands to pull you into it, think about using the muscles around your spine. So those are the muscles on your back, but they're also the muscles of the sides of the waist and the front of the body, the core. We're asking those muscles to work to turn each of our vertebrae just a little bit more. The function of our muscles, one of the functions of our muscles, is to move our bones into different positions. So we're asking our muscles here to move the bones of our spine into a little bit more of a twist, but in a really gentle and kind way. Let's take one last breath here. And then back around to our starting position. If you are seated on the floor, you might uncross the legs. If you're seated in the chair with me, it might feel good now to lean back against the back of the chair after all of that work. I'd like to take just a brief forward fold. We're going to do, if you're in the chair with me, you're going to do what I call a chair child's pose. If you're on the floor, you could do a child's pose, or you could extend the legs and fold forward, or you could have the feet together and butterfly and come forward. Any forward fold you'd like to do here. So if we're in a chair, just going to take the elbows to the knees, and you might even hold on to opposite elbows here, whatever feels best, and let your spine round forward, almost as though you were just curling up. Stay there for a few breaths. If it doesn't feel good, then I'm just going to invite you to come into any comfortable position that lets you breathe. If you've never seen child's pose on the floor, I'll just show you what that looks like. The knees would be on the floor, and I would bring my head toward the floor. My arms are maybe in front of me, or some people like them behind me themselves, like this. So lots of different ways to do the pose, but if this isn't comfortable for you, a chair may be the way to go. Wherever you are, let's take 2 more breaths. And then we'll come back into a comfortable position for our last moment or two together. So we're right up against our time that's allotted for the class. So I just want to let you know, in case you have a commitment you need to get to, you're welcome to go. I'm going to give us a few extra minutes just because of the mix up today with the time. So I'm going to go just 3 minutes longer to just about 11:20. So if you're able to hang in there, you're welcome to, but if not, I understand. The last thing that we do together is just a little seated meditation. And if you'd like to lie down on the floor for this, that's great too. See if you can find a position that feels really supported and comfortable for you and your body today. And then we're going to scan through the body from the crown of the head all the way down to the feet. And we'll do that together. So we're starting here at the crown of the head. See if you can bring your awareness to your scalp, to the back of your neck. Bring your awareness into your jaw and into the temples around your eyes. As you bring your awareness there, notice if there's any tension that's present, and see if you can invite that tension to just start to drain away. Now bring your awareness down into your neck, your shoulders and upper back, the space of the chest, and see if you can notice any tension or tightness that might be present there. Imagine as you exhale that that tension could drain away, could drop away. Lower the awareness now. It drops a little bit lower into the space of the heart and the lungs, into the belly, into the lower back. Let yourself breathe in and out in this space. Feel the expansion of the belly. And as you exhale, let there be a letting go. If the body can, let go of any tension that you don't need here. Bring your awareness to your hips, the strong, heavy muscles of the legs, all the way down the knees, the calves, the shins, and the feet. Notice what you're feeling there, any tension, any tightness. And as you exhale again, imagine that that tension just drains away right into the floor, goes into the earth. We don't even need to sweep it up after class, it's gone. And now as you breathe in, see if you can imagine that your whole body is breathing in. As you breathe out, maybe there's a little bit of a letting go. Anything you don't need, any tension you've been hanging on to, imagine it draining out, draining away. You breathe in, you might imagine that you're breathing in something that's really good for you here. Breathing in hope or health or vitality. Breathing in energy, breathing in healing. And the exhale is just an invitation to anything else, anything that's not needed, unnecessary, unwelcome. Imagining that being a letting go with the exhale. So we're not denying the circumstances of our lives or our world, but we are inviting in good things. We're keeping ourselves open to possibilities. Not closing off. Now, as we stay here for just another moment, before we move on, before we go to what's next in the day, if you like, you might take one hand to your heart, and maybe with the other hand, reach out in front of you and imagine that we're extending these hands toward one another. So I'm extending one hand toward you. And with our extended hands, we're inviting connection, friendship, and support. Even though we may never meet in person, even though there are people here you don't know and with whom you may not agree about everything, we're here doing good work for ourselves and we're doing good work together. See if you can feel that connection across the miles, across the distance. As you breathe in, take in that positiveness, that good energy that we're sharing. One more breath together here. And then if you like, maybe the hands come back to the heart together, or the hands can just rest naturally in the lap. If your eyes are closed, you might open them. And it's time to conclude our practice.